For decades, we've been told a story that the world's nuclear stockpiles are shrinking. But the truth? It's a lot more complicated and honestly, a lot more concerning. So let's get real about what's actually happening with the global nuclear arsenal. Okay, so here's the big number. As of early 2025, that's roughly how many nuclear weapons exist on planet Earth. Now, that number is way down from its peak during the Cold War, but, and this is a huge but, it hides a really, really dangerous trend. And this right here, this chart really paints a picture, doesn't it? You've got 9 countries with these weapons, but look at that. 2 old rivals, the United States and Russia, they hold almost 90% of everything. All right, so who are these 9 countries holding all the cards? Let's take a look. Russia and the US are clearly in a league of their own. But the real eye-opener here? Look at China. Their arsenal is growing so fast they've shot right into 3rd place. And after that, you see this massive drop-off to the other nuclear powers: France, the UK, Pakistan, India, Israel, and, of course, North Korea. And this is where we get to the real heart of the issue. The conversation isn't about getting rid of old bombs anymore. Nope, it's about building brand new, much scarier ones. So, at first glance, this seems great, right? The total number of warheads is still technically going down as the US and Russia dismantle their old, retired Cold War relics. It sounds like we're moving in the right direction. But here's the twist. While those old weapons are being scrapped, every single one of the 9 nuclear states is pouring money into modernizing its arsenal. And this is the part you really need to get. We're swapping out old quantity for a new, way more dangerous kind of quality. And we're not just talking about a fresh coat of paint here. I mean, China is reportedly adding around 100 warheads a year. The US and Russia are in the middle of these massive programs to replace pretty much everything. Their missiles, their submarines, their bombers. And more countries are developing missiles that can carry multiple warheads, which just dramatically ramps up the destructive power of a single launch. Okay, I know these huge numbers can start to feel a little unreal. So let's zoom in. Let's talk about the power of just one of these modern bombs to really understand what's at stake. So, think back to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945, that had a yield of about 15 kilotons. Now take a look at a single standard warhead in today's US or Russian arsenal. We're talking 300 to 800 kilotons. And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? That tiny little sliver on the left, that's Hiroshima. And that giant tower next to it, that represents just one of the thousands of warheads deployed today. It's an almost unimaginable leap in destructive power. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. We're not talking 20 to 50% more powerful. We're talking 20 to 50 times more powerful. That's the kind of force we're dealing with, packed into a single weapon, sitting in a silo or on a submarine right now. So, what happens if it's not just one bomb? What if hundreds or even thousands are used? Well, the consequences go way, way beyond the blast zone. It becomes a truly global catastrophe. So the first thing we have to worry about on a global scale is nuclear fallout. And it's not just dust, it's this toxic cocktail of radioactive particles and fine soot that gets blasted right up into the atmosphere. This stuff spreads in a couple of ways. First, you get the heavy particles. They fall back to Earth pretty quickly, within about 24 hours, creating this intense local fallout that can poison thousands of square miles. But the really fine soot, that gets blasted all the way up into the stratosphere, and it can just hang out up there, circling the globe for years on end. And get this, in a major nuclear war, it's estimated that firestorms could inject 150 million tons of that soot into the atmosphere. 150 million tons. And that's when things go from a regional disaster to a full-on planetary crisis. See, that massive cloud of soot would essentially wrap around the planet and block out the sun. And that kicks off this terrifying chain reaction. Global temperatures would just plummet, the seasons would be thrown into chaos, and agriculture would collapse worldwide, leading to global famine. That is the nightmare scenario we call nuclear winter. But wait a minute, you might be thinking, what if I could just get away from it all? I mean, all the nuclear weapons are in the northern hemisphere. Surely there's somewhere safe to hide, right? And on paper, it seems like there is. By treaty, the entire southern hemisphere, South America, Africa, Australia, is a nuclear weapon-free zone. No launch sites, no silos. It seems like the perfect safe haven.
So, the logical question is, if the war happens up north, the southern hemisphere is safe, right?
No. Now, there is a scientific reason for that false hope. There's this thing called the meteorological equator, which is basically an atmospheric barrier. And it's true, it does make it very difficult for that initial radioactive fallout and smoke to cross from north to south. So, while the southern hemisphere would be spared the immediate horror of the blasts and the worst of the radiation, it cannot escape the planet's interconnected climate. The nuclear winter caused by the war up north would trigger global cooling everywhere. Within years, agriculture would fail there too, and the result would be the same: mass starvation. There is no escape.
So this is the sobering reality we're left with. The old narrative of disarmament has been replaced by a new, dangerous arms race focused on creating more sophisticated and powerful weapons. And as we've seen, in a world this interconnected, there is no safe harbor. It forces us all to ask, what does this new reality mean for the future of everyone on this planet?